Y'all asked for it, y'all got it. Why did I get married too?
Oh shit, here we go again.
As much as the first film was trifling when it came to messaging, at least the script was coherent. When it comes to the sequel, a mess of a script, latent with more wayward messaging a la Tyler Perry, that tossed out more issues and conflict amongst the couples than it was equipped to handle, as evidenced by a speedy, half-assed resolution in the final 5 minutes of the film that the viewer is meant to just take in stride. But y'all already know how we get down on this channel, so Tyler Perry, I'm coming for that ass. Unfulfillment and ethical cheating. Unlike its predecessor, the sequel devotes considerably less time to Terry and Diane, the stars of my prior video. However, there's still something to be said about the evolution of Terry and Diane's relationship and the conflict they undergo because of the issues made apparent in the first film. Shortly after the sequel begins, the audience is made privy to the fact that Diane caved to Terry's demands, underwent a procedure to untie her tubes, and gave Sari the son he so desperately wanted. As Diane says herself,
after the surgery and untying my tubes, I'm just happy he has his son.
It's important to interrogate Diane's wording here. He has his son. Her words assign ownership of their son to Terry, while also emphasizing that having her son was an act done for Terry. It wasn't something she desired, as evidenced by her choice in words and looking back at their conflict in the previous film. What Diane desired was to keep her man, and keeping her man meant making him happy, something that could only be done by sacrificing her own desires for his and birthing him a son. And of course, Terry's annoying ass is shining his eyes and all 32 of them big ass teeth at this life he's made for himself. A life clearly built on Diane's constant concessions and sacrifices. Fortunately, that smile starts turning upside down when Terry clocks there's a little storm brewing in their relationship. Throughout the beginning of the film, an emphasis is placed on Diane looking happy and just having an overall glow.
You're just so happy. What's going on, girl?
You to be smiling like that? You glowing, girl. You are glowing.
These claims about the shift in Diane's demeanor, signed, sealed, delivered by her husband himself, reveal to the audience Diane was not happy before recently. Juxtaposing the age of her son with her current emotional upswing, it's easy to suss out it's not the birth of her son that has led to her happiness, nor is it Diane having kept her man by ensuring Terry's happiness, but a third other thing. Looking back at the wording Diane uses when talking with Angela about her son,
I'm just happy he has his son, you know? He's happy, I'm happy.
Intentionally or not, the diversion revealed in Diane and Terry's desires to have another child is mirrored in the root of the happiness both of them are feeling, as she follows up her assertion of Terry's happiness with her own. Though her words might appear promising on the surface to onlookers of the couple, for viewers with more introspection to Terry and Diane's relationship, Diane's words cement the divergent paths they're treading on, especially once more is revealed about Diane's business in the film. Said business, we learn, thanks to Diane's sloppy-ass antics and complete failure to exercise discretion, being that her newfound happiness is a result of an emotional affair. I'll be referring to her antics as cheating in this video because her actions qualify as such in my court of law.
Who's Phil?
Ethical cheating. To cheat or not to cheat? That is the question. I'm not gonna hold y'all. If I had to play like I was into Tyler Perry's trifling inked hairline ass, I'd probably cheat too. I mean, Phil, Tyler Perry. Phil, Tyler Perry. Phil, Tyler Perry. Wow. Next question. I'm not someone who believes there's something inherently feminist about cheating on an ain't shit nigga, but I'ma giggle anytime it happens. What Diane was really trifling for in my eyes was making googly eyes and fawning over this bouquet of debauchery from Philip while her bestie was having the worst day of her life. Homegirl really came home after that mess of a mediation, talking about, I had a great day. Oh, so you really don't give a fuck. The bird coming around to bite Patricia in the ass. Honestly though, Diane, if you're gonna cheat, at least pretend like you give a damn about not getting caught.
Wait, you do that?
Diane takes any and every opportunity to throw her cheating ass shenanigans in Terry's face like it's her day job. And yes, I did giggle every time.
And if people people say, Monica, how can you laugh at that? Because damn it, it's funny.
Look at her laying out this hot ass fit in front of him. Then she's got the audacity to go hop up in his lap after to cover her tracks and stifle that little flame of guilt burning up in her stomach. Diane said, man, them wicked, but me wickeder than them. Peeping Terry and Diane's relationship, where we last left them in the first film, how horribly misaligned they were in what they each wanted in their relationship, and contrasting that with where their relationship has picked back up in the sequel, with Diane conceding to Terry's desires in order to keep their relationship, I can't say I'm shocked with how things have turned out. Their relationship was truly doomed to lead here being unfulfillment and in shambles.
We're different. You're happier than I've ever seen you.
Terry's words here, however, raised an awareness from Terry himself about Diane's happiness and revealed how long Diane has existed in a relationship that hasn't fulfilled her. That's not to say Diane has been unhappy and miserable in her relationship with Terry since its inception, but there's something to be said about Terry pointing out he's never seen Diane this happy. I just can't ignore that. It's evident from the decisions made in their relationship prior to Diane's cheating. Their relationship centered Terry, catered to his needs and desires. From having their first child and Diane having to momentarily shelve her career to having their second child, which I can only imagine led to a similar shelving after she had finally achieved making partner. Why? In a relationship that not only deprioritizes you, but hinges on you taking on the burden of sacrifice, would one not feel unfulfilled? Simultaneously existing within patriarchal society and within a friend group functioning as a microcosm for said patriarchal society, where the idea of divorce is so demonized and taboo, it's easy to understand why someone like Diane, though aware of how unfulfilling and detrimental her relationship with Terry is for her, is unwilling to leave it, especially considering how women bear the brunt of failure, shaming, and outcasting after a divorce. So instead, to fill in the gaps she's experiencing from her relationship with Terry, Diane cheats. After getting played in the face one time too many, Terry finally confronts Diane about her cheating. During their conversation, Diane reveals a bit of information about why exactly she cheated.
He's funny, he makes me laugh, and
It's safe to assume Diane sought out a relationship with Phil in order to fill in those gaps she was starved for in her relationship with Terry. Unfortunately for the audience, not much more information is offered into the depth of her relationship with Phil, and even less still is provided in terms of Terry and Diane exploring the existing conflicts in their relationship or working towards any actual resolution to their relationship problems. Patriarchy and emasculation. Modern-day prescriptions of masculinity are tied deeply to patriarchy and all the violence that comes with it. See, misogyny. Within patriarchal society, there's a clear perception of what makes a man and patriarchal ideas of masculinity, which includes, but is not limited to, an ability to protect, and a capability to provide. Men are expected to exude these perceived masculine traits and roles, a failure or prevention from doing so, resulting in their emasculation, which to me is really just a faux concept created to spur paranoia and ultimately uphold patriarchy and subjugation of other oppressed groups within patriarchy, but I'm not going to get into that today. Emasculation is tied intrinsically to Troy's character arc, frustration, and anger in this second film. Entering the film, the audience is made privy to Troy and Sheila's financial struggles. The two packed up and moved back home for Sheila to be closer to her family and friends. Unfortunately, this meant Troy leaving his job as sheriff to a ghost town, a job he has since been unable to replace. Stepping out of the unemployment line is becoming ever more crucial as the couple struggle under the weight of 2 mortgages and the cost of a newborn child.
I don't think you understand what this is like for a man like me.
His words here serve to highlight the inherent selfishness and misogyny embedded into the very fabric of patriarchal ideology. Troy is centering himself and his manhood in their financial struggle, focusing on the implications not being able to provide have for how he is perceived by society and his own perceptions of himself, shaped by patriarchy. There is no room being allocated here to consider the ways with which Sheila's life is being rattled and the struggles she is undergoing due to their financial situation, all while maintaining their household and caring for their child while he's job searching. For Troy, their financial situation has resulted in his emasculation. We witness Troy struggle under this perceived failure of his duties as a man, offering a window into how patriarchy, though beneficial for cis men, also functions as a double-edged sword. This failure is at the center of Troy's frustrations. A deep-seated insecurity around failing to show up as a man in his household, as he ain't doing no providing and he ain't doing no protecting. It's truly ironic as through Troy, you're able to see the ways with which patriarchy and its definition of manhood and masculinity so often bite men in the ass. Yet the big wheel keeps on turning, no Tina. Rather than seeking out ways to divest from such a restrictive ideology and system, Troy leans into it, overcompensating to reassert and protect his masculinity, resulting in him inflicting harm on his wife, Sheila. If you didn't clock, that right there, that power held over oppressed groups, is exactly why cis men cling to patriarchy. You see examples of this overcompensation and desperation to shield himself from emasculation countless times throughout the film. During a heated conversation about Mike's impromptu arrival at their holiday retreat, Sheila reveals she and Troy spent their last to come on the trip. Troy, not feeling Sheila divulging their financial straits unprompted, pulls her away from the group to have a conversation.
Why'd you have to tell him that?
Say what?
That we spent our last.
It's understandable why Troy has no desire to divulge his financial situation to a group of near strangers. However, that won't stop me from digging into the more patriarchal reasoning lurking behind his discontent, which we start to see when in the same conversation, Troy exclaims,
Definitely don't want that damn fool to know.
The proverbial rug beneath Troy's whole Prince Charming act of having rescued this woman, Sheila, from a horrible marriage to a horrible man is being pulled from up under him, as Troy is faced with his inability to provide for Sheila financially in the ways Mike was able to. His desire to keep his failures from the group, but more specifically from Mike, revolve around ego and patriarchy, a fear and insecurity of being perceived as a lesser man, a fear and insecurity of losing. Toxic masculinity. Troy's inability to provide for his family financially and his subsequent interactions and arguments with Sheila reek of the harms of patriarchy, but more specifically under that umbrella, reek of toxic masculinity. Toxic masculinity refers to the enforcement of patriarchal gender roles that have a detrimental impact on individuals in society. Truthfully speaking, if you're asking me, modern day masculinity established within patriarchal ideology is inherently toxic and harmful, so at times the term toxic masculinity can seem kinda moot. Though Troy faces the harms of patriarchy, it is Sheila who shoulders the brunt of harm in Troy's attempts to compensate for his emasculation by engaging in constant displays of toxic masculinity. When Troy pulls Sheila aside to chastise her about sharing their business regarding them emptying their coffers to fly out to the Bahamas, he firmly tells her,
I don't want them in our business.
Troy asserts his desire to keep Sheila's friends out of his business as a means to preserve his pride, aka his masculinity. Again, while it's understandable why Troy is hesitant to share his personal business with people he's not very familiar with, the preservation of his pride comes at the cost of isolating Sheila. An isolation, which I can imagine, is resemblance of that Sheila felt during her relationship with Mike. As hard as it seems for him to understand, Troy's struggle is not his alone.
It's not a good day. Okay? Now back to that
Steak in the table.
Sheila is also struggling in this situation. Regardless of his intentions, because intent does not negate harm, demanding Sheila does not discuss their business and her struggles with her close friends is isolating her and sets a dangerous precedent early on into their relationship that is easily overlooked because up to this point, Troy has embodied this idea of a good man. Obviously, a conversation can be had about Sheila establishing boundaries with her friends when it comes to them sharing information with their husbands, but attempting to control that line of communication between Sheila and her friends at times when she is struggling is troubling. Constantly throughout the film, Troy engages in toxic masculinity to compensate for his perceived emasculation, leaving Sheila as collateral damage. Such a display is witnessed when Sheila suggests reaching out to her friends for financial assistance.
I'm going to borrow the money from Pat or Angela.
No, you're not.
Y'all hear that? That was the sound of Troy's allegiance to patriarchy once again rearing its ugly ass head. Throughout the film, Troy has made it clear he prescribes to patriarchal roles. As such, he is meant to be the provider of his household. The idea of allowing someone else to step in and help him out financially is perceived by Troy as his position as head of household being usurped. Accepting financial assistance would jostle Troy from this proverbial iron throne he perceives himself as occupying. And God forbid it's a woman doing the jostling. It's this patriarchal reasoning that leads to Troy's vehement refusal of Sheila's suggestion. A suggestion that would remove the burden of financial struggle from both their shoulders. A burden Troy would rather he and Sheila be swallowed by if the alternative is risking his masculinity. So quickly and definitively does Troy sacrifice his and Sheila's mental health along with the health of their relationship at the man-made altar of manhood. Are we not tired? This is just one of many red flags tossed onto the field during this film, as we see how Troy responds to struggle in their relationship and navigates conflict.
You know, we should have never left Colorado. I should have followed my first mind.
Looks like another red flag on the play. The way Troy is navigating conflict in this particular moment sets yet another dangerous precedent in their relationship. Rather than reckoning with his own perceived failures and insecurities as a man, Troy settles for the easy way out, shifting blame onto Sheila. An action that underlines a selfishness within Troy that I had mentioned before. It's not hard to believe that the next time they face struggle in their relationship, Troy would reach right back into that old reliable bag of tricks and do the same. The ways Troy navigates conflict with Sheila during times of struggle in their relationship makes me feel quite shaky when it comes to the future of said relationship. A shakiness which isn't at all alleviated when Sheila does get an apology from Troy. And why, you might ask? Well, the overall context and timing of the apology. When Sheila comes home after a night out with her girls following her argument with Troy, Troy approaches her, pout upon his lips, telling her that he put their son down to bed and cooked. The way with which he emphasizes completing both tasks, letting me know that while he's been jobless, he ain't been doing much on the domestic front, but I'll hold my tongue on that today. Give me strength, but I'll hold my tongue on that today. Initially, Troy's actions seem like an apologetic gesture made in good faith for his outburst and behavior in their prior argument. However, we quickly come to learn that's not exactly the case. Firstly, the lack of introspection Troy has made gives me pause.
Married people argue, even in a good marriage.
I know.
Well, yes. This is true. People argue all the time in marriage and relationships in general. Arguing is natural and, I'd argue, healthy, but not in all cases. It's the way with which you navigate arguments, express yourself, and treat your partner during arguments that matters. It's the way with which you work through things post-argument and come to a resolution through introspection and accountability that matters. Troy never voices regret or alludes to any introspection made into what was wrong with his behavior during their arguments. He simply chalks things up to married people argue, and he doesn't want to lose his wife. Taking a quick segue, given the deep-seated insecurity within Troy around his failure as a man due to an inability to provide, I can't help but dig into this fear of losing his wife. While Troy's fear of Sheila leaving him can be spurred by a fear of losing a woman he cares for, I can't help but look at the possibility of his fear of losing his wife also stemming from a fear of what a divorce would mean for Troy. A divorce would validate his insecurities. Losing his wife would cement his fears and insecurity around failing as a man. A divorce would be the ultimate blow to his manhood. Sheila, in contrast, is open about her sometimes rash responses to Troy's attitude and behavior, opening up to Troy about her struggle with projection because of her prior volatile relationship with Mike.
I am not going through what I went through with Mike.
And her frustration with Troy raising his voice and giving her the silent treatment. Both, she emphasizes, triggering her. There's a lack of introspection seen with Troy that simply doesn't sit right with my spirit. Shifting to the second piece that makes me side-eye Troy's apology.
I got a job.
Herein lies the real shaky foundation of Troy's apology. Throughout this film, Troy has shown the audience time and time again that it is his unemployment, but more importantly, what his unemployment says about his masculinity and manhood that is causing this negative shift in his demeanor and frustration with Sheila. Pairing this context with the revelation that Troy has just secured a job, subsequently regaining his manhood and reasserting his position as provider and head of household, a la Sheila and Mike, unbeknownst to him, I can say with utmost certainty, his apology was not made in good faith. I ask you this, If a job didn't quite literally fall into Troy's lap, would he have offered Sheila an apology? And in turn, again, what does this say for Troy and Sheila's relationship the next time they face struggle or conflict, especially conflict centering around a perceived threat to Troy's manhood? None good, I'll tell you that much. Regardless, Troy's apology soon becomes moot when he learns exactly how he landed his new position, leading to him piecing up an ailing Mike, yeah, I giggled, and further fracturing his relationship with Sheila. Oh, so we ain't even trying? Both couples covered in this video, Diane and Terry and Sheila and Troy, undergo relational conflict in the film. With Terry and Diane, we witness an older couple whose previous relationship problems spilled over into the second film, resulting in unfulfillment and unfaithfulness. In contrast, Sheila and Troy's dynamic give the audience a window into a newer couple facing their first real conflict. The navigation of said conflict quickly dismantling Troy's good guy persona as toxic masculinity wreaks havoc on their relationship. To no shock of mine, both relationships are resolved in a similar fashion. The quick falling dominoes of Mike's cancer diagnosis and the subsequent death of Gavin, Patricia's soon-to-be ex but now deceased husband, leads to Patricia having a breakdown in the hospital and urging the couples to
Fix it! Fix it! Fix it!
It being their wayward relationships, thus resulting in the premature, shoddily written reconciliation between Terry and Diane and Sheila and Troy that is only fitting for a Tyler Perry production. And of course, it's the princess of patriarchy herself, guilt-tripping her friends into remaining in relationships that are not serving them, or at bare minimum, preventing them from confronting the existing issues that are leading to the deterioration of their relationships and working through them. Mind you, homegirl's gonna be finished grieving Gavin's ass in 2 scenes. Through the revelations of toxic masculinity and cheating, spurred by feelings of unfulfillment, and the last-minute Hail Mary reconciliation penned in the final minutes of the film, Tyler Perry reveals how inept he is as a writer, but more significantly, underlines messaging about the importance of maintaining a marriage union, even if it comes at the expense of individual happiness and/or well-being of the relational health of the participants in the union.